Welcome to episode 56 of the Becoming Mind Strong podcast. And today we're talking about a topic that it can be a tough pill for a lot of women, especially to swallow. You know, if you're someone who feels like, oh man, I'm walking around eating 900 calories, 1,000 calories, 1,100 calories, even 1,200 calories, and you're basically essentially starving yourself or on the brink of it and still not losing weight, there is a very definitive reason why. There's actually two reasons why this is happening, because under eating actually hurts your weight loss. Check it out. So whenever we train new coaches within Mind Strong, whenever we bring in new coaches, we put them through a very rigorous training method. The way that we approach nutrition, even the way that we specifically do macros, is very different than the industry, which is why it's so personal and so effective. And one of the things that we always tell our coaches off the bat is buckle in, because you are going to be shocked how many women come to us under eating. So it doesn't matter how you work with us. If you're an Ignite or 12-week program, if you're with Elite working one-to-one with me, if you're in one of our self-paced programs, we always start people the exact same way. And the way we do that is by doing your best to eat as you normally eat and tracking your food for 5 to 7 days. So by the way, if you're considering working with us, spoiler alert, that's always going to be assignment number one, is do your best to eat as you normally eat, track your food for 5 to 7 days. Why? Because the way to make this completely sustainable, the way to make this so personalized that you'll actually stick with it, is by looking at where you're starting, then setting goals, then using something called the bridge. We call it the bridge that bridges those two together. That's more than we're going to get into in this podcast. But the big picture is here. This is how we make it super sustainable, super personalized to you and your goals. Now, what happens, when we bring these new coaches on and they're going through their training method, is it's a pretty correct assumption to think, if most women are coming to us for weight loss, we do get a couple here and there looking to build muscle, just looking to get healthier. But I would say about 80% of people who work with us are looking to lose weight. You would assume that their 5 to 7 days of tracking are going to show that they're just wildly overeating every single day. And sometimes that happens. Honestly, when that happens, it's like, oh, okay, our work here is going to be simple. We're going to get you into a caloric deficit. You're going to be golden. But I would venture to say that probably 70% of the time, what we find is that on a daily basis, most people are wildly under eating. And when we see this, one of two things are happening. And what we tell our coaches is it doesn't really matter which one of the two things it is, because the solution to them is the exact same. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But one of two things is happening. When we see women come to us and they're eating 900, 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 calories a day, either what's happening is they're so severely restricting most days that they're binging on other days, right? If they're tracking for 5 to 7 days, what we're getting is a very quick glimpse into their life. This is not indicative of how they're eating all the time, right? There's going to be days in there that maybe they skip because they don't want to see it on paper. Maybe the next week looks totally different. Macros are never one and done. This is very much a bird's eye view of how we're eating. But typically, one of two things is happening. Number one, what we're talking about right now is that there's so much restriction. And in this case, I'm not talking about restriction even in terms of like not eating donuts, cutting out carbs. I mean, caloric restriction. They're so wildly under eating on a daily basis that on the days we're not seeing, they're going overboard. And this is such a common one. Maybe you felt like it. I know that back in the day I did as well, where it's like, I'm eating healthy 6 days a week. Like the majority of the time I'm so good. Why aren't I losing weight? Well, the answer is, if we're going to get a little technical and talk about calories in versus calories out, if you were to average your week, those binge days are putting you so far over that you're not really in a deficit anymore. So that's option one that's happening. Option two is a bit more scientific. We got to nerd out a little bit for option two. So there are two hormones in our body. One's called leptin, one's called ghrelin. And basically it's a system of checks and balances. What ghrelin and leptin are designed to do, biologically we are designed to do, is they're designed to send signals from your stomach or your fat cells, depending on which one we're talking about, to your brain to tell you that you're full. Now, one of the beauties of the human body is that it is such a creature of adaptation, right? We can get our bodies used to almost anything with time and consistency. That's the reason. If you haven't listened to the episodes on retraining your metabolism, that's the reason we can refire up our metabolism after menopause, after most major surgeries, because our bodies adapt. The problem in this case is when our system of checks and balances, when our leptin ghrelin hormones are out of whack, our body will also adapt. So when it's been 6 months, 8 months, a year, 5 years, a decade of you getting your body used to eating 900 calories, your body thinks that that's the norm. And worse, your body has decided, you know what? We are starving, right? If we go back to our biological roots, if your body thinks it's starving, it's living in a state of near starvation, it's not going to burn fat. If you heard the earlier episode this season where we talked about being face to face with a saber-toothed tiger, right? In that moment, your body's doing the opposite. It's saying, how do I self-protect? How do I preserve my energy? And it's going to do that by storing fat. This is not some like woo-woo stuff that we throw out there in the health and fitness world. When we're talking about from a biological standpoint, our bodies are designed for survival. And if your body is living in a state of survival where it thinks it is starving, it's going to hold on to fat so that it can survive. And if anything, if we're going to keep pushing the limits, let's say you're working out while you're borderline starving yourself, if anything, your body's going to burn muscle instead of giving up its precious fat that it needs to survive, to self-protect, to have more energy. So when women come to us and we see that they're way under eating, it's either one of those two things. Either they're way under eating and then they're binging, or they've just been under eating for so long that their powerhouse body has adapted to it and it's holding on to fat and it's not releasing. Now, the conversation that we have with many, many women is, listen, I recognize how scary this is, right? When, let's say you came to us, if at the time of this recording, Dory is one of our coaches and we always use her as an example. Dory is postmenopausal. She came to us eating 900 calories a day and still not losing weight. And when we did this work, we fired up Dory's metabolism to, at this point, and this will continue as the years go, but at this point, she can eat over 1,700 calories a day and still lose weight. But the conversation we had, I'm using Dory as an example because she had this conversation with me and now she has it with her clients now that she's become a coach for us. And the conversation is, listen, this is scary as hell, right? The diet industry has made us believe that the way to lose weight is to just keep cutting calories. But what you've seen is that's not working. If that worked, these 900 calories you'd been eating, you'd be losing. What are we going to do? Keep dropping down until we're at 700, 500 calories a day? You will wind up in the hospital. Clearly, this is not the method because it's not working. What we need to do is first and foremost, meet your body where it is. We don't ever make drastic jumps. Our bodies don't like drastic change, right? Our caveman brain, biologically, we meet your body close to where it is. Then slowly, we start raising your calories. Now, this is the part that's petrifying, especially as women, especially if you've been inundated with diet culture. We think more calories equals gaining weight. But in this case, what you are doing is you are communicating to your body that you are safe. You are not starving. It's okay to release because it's being fueled the way it wants to be fueled. If you listen to, I did an earlier podcast many seasons ago about water weight. I used one of my favorite analogies about a bonus paycheck, and it applies here as well. You know, if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you know where every penny's being spent, you're holding tight to your money, you're very much in control of it. Everything is very tight, very restricted. Then I come along and say, here's $2,000, just bonus. Just want to give it to you. Don't worry, spend it however you want because next month I'm going to give you another 2,000. Well, that first month, there's no way in hell you're spending that money, right? You don't trust me. Like this came out of nowhere. We don't believe that it's going to happen again. So maybe we spend a little, but mostly we're going to keep holding tight. But the next month I show up, I give you another bonus check. Now it's like, wait a second, 2 months in a row, I'm not ready to go on a shopping spree, but maybe I can loosen the reins a bit. I don't fully trust it. We'll see what happens. 3, 4, 5 months into this, you're going to start spending that money as if it's part of your income because you trust that it's coming consistently. This is how our body works. It has now spent years holding tight to every calorie because it believes it's in starvation mode. It doesn't know or trust that it's going to be fueled properly. So when we start to slowly, incrementally, a drop at a time, increase your calories, it starts to build trust and it starts to say, wait a second. First of all, our bodies love consistency. She's been giving me the same amount of food every single day for the past few weeks. Wait a second, I'm actually being fueled the way that I'm designed to be fueled. And I have enough energy, because calories are our energy, to do the things I need to do. I feel incredible. I feel energized. You're going to watch your energy skyrocket, and you're going to start to see the weight drop off because your body has recognized that it doesn't need to self-protect. It doesn't need to hold fat. It's ready to release. It's a process. It takes time. It takes consistency. Honestly, it takes a coach who knows how to do this. Retraining your metabolism can be, it is a skill that takes some experience to do correctly, and it works. The biggest piece to this puzzle is the mindset piece, right? Imagine someone coming up to you saying, oh, you're eating 900 calories a day. Just start eating 1400. You'll be fine. First of all, don't ever jump like that. Secondly, you're probably going to smack that person in the face and be like, yeah, that's never going to happen. But the reality is, if cutting calories worked, this wouldn't apply to anyone. But I'm sitting here telling you probably 70% of the women who come to us are way, way, way under eating. And part of that is severe restriction. We could have that whole conversation about restriction leads to caving, which leads to binging. That's part of it. And a huge part of it is the checks and balances within your body, that when that communication system that's designed for your body to tell your brain when it's full, when that's out of whack, because our bodies are such creatures of adaptation, you're going to go into, some people call it starvation mode. I think that gives the wrong impression. It's more about self-protection. It is biological self-protection. The key is to meet your body where it is, to take small baby steps, and most of all, to build that trust. If you haven't done so already, be sure to check our private Facebook group for women only. Look for Mind Strong Women on Facebook, and we'll see you in there.